Oh, welcome in. I'm here with Ryan Burgess. Ryan, what's up?
Well, not much. Lots of emails going in and out this morning. So, good morning, LinkedIn. Hello, everybody out there.
Yes,
Uh,
and we're also on Twitter and YouTube and Facebook and all those places. But nevertheless, there are places somewhere around this that you can comment, ask questions. Today, we're talking about thought leadership and marketing, right? Multifamily marketing, multifamily branding, what that means to you. uh, Many different companies out there. You have real estate operators that are paid to manage on behalf of investors. So they're looking to build and grow and scale their brand to acquire more management accounts. We have our investment management or investment companies that are looking to raise capital, find limited partners, attract talent to syndicate deals. Get the right lending relationships. So the strength in their brand is incredibly important. And then you have the industry partners that are reshaping the way sometimes these businesses are operating and working. So you have like, the what we call the industry partners, the vendors, suppliers from the general traditional stuff to the disruptive technologies. So how are you introducing products and information into the industry? How are you telling that story? So those are the three sort of brands that we support with our strategic agency. I've got Ryan here because we've been having a lot of conversations with those companies, and we thought we would do just a little huddle here and talk about some of those conversations and talk about some great ways that you can leverage thought leadership to get clients calling you instead of figuring out how to get in front of them. Uh, any opening thoughts, Ryan, for that?
no, that's a good opener. And when you just start to think about all those different players that you mentioned, I mean, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe the number is 17.5 million people that touch our industry in some way, let alone the millions and millions of renters out there that see the final product. But it's just wild when we talk about branding, when we talk about all those different businesses trying to gain attention out there, and they may all lead with "we do things differently," but at the end of the day, what does that really mean, and how are you getting your voice heard and differentiating your offerings, and then ultimately getting to know the people behind those products and services? So that's really what we try to do on a daily basis, what we're trying to encourage people to do on their own and elevate their own voice. And I think you and I have spoken in the past about being in real estate, but then if I have a background in technology and you have the background in investment, we may have these different perspectives that collide and could ultimately help each other, and be able to find the best fit when it comes to businesses and how they operate.
Yeah, and you brought up a good point. So this collision, this where innovation collides with innovation is more than just technology. It's about getting better, right? And in many cases, you look at what some of these services, if it's investments or management or even the products that are selling into those spaces, ultimately you're trying to take productivity to a higher level, right? So more productivity, more revenue, more efficiency in the organization, more outcomes. If
Hmm.
that's a higher yield for that limited partner or the or JV partner, whatever that may be, or if it's leaner margin or better margins for the operators that are being squeezed in many cases with expenses and all the things that are challenging in operating the business today. And then, or if it's efficiency, that there's a new technology bringing efficiency to the business. What we're learning, Ryan, and you're in these meetings with me with our Multifamily Innovation Advisory Council, is what we're trying to do. And with that group, we're talking to owners and operators weekly. And at the upcoming Multifamily Innovation Summit in December, that's where we'll meet in person. Those conversations are really about educating the industry on how to make businesses better, right? With where they are and where they want to go, without being inside a sales conversation. Now, I believe that people have a different relationship with the idea of like salespeople,
Yes.
salesperson. I think that marketers, bad marketers and bad salespeople can ruin it for all the rest, right? I think there's a lot of great people that have great products for sale. Everything is really, everybody is transacting in some way. But when we look at selling as helping, and realizing like, hey, we've identified a problem in the industry, our product or solution can solve it, go sell it. It's like your duty to get it out there and go help people.
Oh
And
yeah.
with that mindset, it's a really interesting perspective to know, like, listen, when I introduce this thing to you, your problems are going to go lower, or complexity is going to go away, or life's going to get better from a revenue standpoint, or your people are going to grow better, whatever that may be. But if you come with that mindset, then it's like, selling is a service, right? Selling is the best thing to do. It's what I'm here right now, giving value, right? So that you can appreciate that value. And when you give value and you appreciate things, appreciation, things get, the value of it gets better. So hopefully at some point you will realize, like, listen, hey, look, you're at some point you may need a done for you. You may need some support. You may need some coaching. You may need some strategy, whatever that may be. And if you're building that relationship in advance before the customer actually transacts with you, you
Yep.
have more probability of actually converting them. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about thought leadership. Ryan, you've said some things inside these meetings that I think are really powerful. And it's like, companies spend a lot of time building like their presence on their website, their owned media, their blogs and articles and downloads and all those things, which is great. What we're talking about, what you mentioned, is you've got to have a presence across the web where people are
Yep.
spending time. Let's talk a
Yep.
little bit more about that.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds easy simple when you put it in certain terms around, we have a product that helps you. Like, what is this big barrier in between you getting something that's going to better your business and then ultimately like a supplier selling it to them? And, broadening your voice across the web is not just filtering everybody into your website and that's where they're going to learn everything that they can about your business or your offerings, but you have to have that voice all across the web, every different channel, all the means of media, whether it's through articles and podcasting, going live on these different avenues that we're going live on. And to me, it's that everybody learns differently. Everybody consumes information on their own time, not just between 8 to 5 when they're able to schedule a Zoom meeting with you and have that one-on-one with a salesperson. But they're gonna go to your website. They're gonna read your reviews on Google My Business page. They're gonna see what other things, whether it's on the real estate side or the supplier side, or do they have a healthy organization? Are people happy working there? We also do research for multifamily best places to work that really gets a little bit more granular into what that means. But people want to know. They want to know whether it's a good company, the people are there, whether the product works. And if you're not doing that on every channel you possibly can, then you're not really paying it forward to those engineers that built the software or the people behind the scenes doing the creative and all those things. You can have a beautiful website and that's a great way to capture those leads and educate the market, but you're really doing yourself a disservice if you're not taking the megaphone out there on the people that are working behind the scenes with the hammer and nail, or the engineers building the software. So I really want to shout from the mountaintops when I work with good people that are doing great things. So that's really my advice to anybody out there listening: is you have to give credit where credit's due, and pay it forward to those people doing the hard work.
Yeah, and I just want to say hey to Bobby Joe, good morning. And also, Mikkel, thank you for the comment. Selling is conversations about needs and solutions. Absolutely. And I'm there to support those that are out there trying to break through and make those noise. You mentioned a couple things that I made some notes here, Ryan, which is like, you think about like, we invest in the brand and all the things that appear that are like about us, what we do. If you go to some management companies today, this is a project for you guys. You guys listening in, I want you to go, and you may be selling into these companies, or maybe you're an operator, but go to these management companies and you'll look at all of their websites. Not all of them, but majority of them say like, here's what we have, here's what we've done, here's what, our units, here's where they are, all that stuff. It's all about them. And so as you're building your presence out there and you're trying to stand out and be different, attract talent, attract investors, and attract residents to your properties, right? Lenders, capital, all those things. Then what we need to do is just like a professional speaker stands on stage and looks out at that audience. The moment that speaker makes it about them, you lose the audience. The audience starts checking out. They start, their brain starts calculating other things, and they're thinking about their worries and challenges and opportunities. And so, but once that speaker stands on stage and connects with the audiences, engages them with stories that compel them for about, what's in it for the audience, what the audience cares about, what the audience can achieve, what the audience can transform, uh, you know, all of those things. And we have to look at our brands the same way. So when you come into interaction with your brand, whatever that may be, it could be a social media post, it could be an email, a text message. People want people do not want our products or information. They want to know what's possible, or they want a problem to go away. So if we frame the messages that we share to the world in context to the problems that they want to solve or the opportunities they want to create, then all of a sudden they're just like, this is for me.
Yes.
You may be on this right now thinking, I want to do better thought leadership, or I want to build my brand, or what have you. So we're creating content that you may care about. And then so you're here spending the time with us. So number one, people don't want our products or information. They want to know what's possible, or they want to knock a problem down. They want to, you're right. Nobody wakes up, like literally, I mentioned this the other day in a call. Nobody wants a demo.
Right.
So even if you went to your sales pages and it says request a demo, I get it. That's what it is. But nobody wakes up that you want to sell to and says, today I want a demo. I need a demo today. So just in the messaging and the context of how we frame it, they may be doing their own research online. And so as you create thought leadership, you want to be thinking about that customer researching the problem they have or
Yes.
the opportunity they want to create. They may be searching right now, how do I lease apartments without depending on people because somebody just quit and left them hanging?
Yes.
So there's that search term. How do I lease an apartment without people? Okay, self-guided tours. Nobody wants self-guided tours.
Right.
They want to be able to lease their apartment the way customers want to buy. But nobody wants the thing, right? Even the
Yep.
demo. So little messaging can go a long way in how you do that. These are some of the things that when some of our strategic agency accounts, what they do, they work with us to figure these things out. Because number one, every time we produce an event, we ask the audience what problems they have and what opportunities they want to create. And so anytime we're producing events and content and they're listening that goes on through Multifamily Innovation Advisory Council, we're listening. And so all of our content, hopefully, right, would be useful to the people that would most likely engage with it. So as you're producing content and thought leadership, it's not about just high activities and high actions. It's literally you gotta think like the customer. And what you mentioned about sort of that website presence and all that stuff, very important.
Yep.
Let's see. So we got a question. Ryan, do you see the questions on the chat?
Yep.
Or let's bring it up. Can you read that one?
We got one. What's the best way to get in front of decision makers like regional managers, VPs? I consolidate technology vendors for property management while increasing NOI with our revenue share.
Oh, yes. What's the best way to get in front of decision makers?
And
So let me ask you this.
Yep.
It's and I'll talk to is it Felipe? Okay.
Yeah.
So here's the deal. We've been trained the way that we grew up, the way that the marketplace was assembled was that we had to go get them, the pursuit of the client, right? And it's all reverse now. And
Yes.
so what the clients are finding you. So the question is, what would a regional manager and VP find if they wanted to search for the problem you solve? Would they find you? Would they find your website? Would they find a video? Would they find something like this? And would it be frictionless for them to talk to an expert? I didn't say get a demo, I said talk to an expert, because they don't want to be sold. They want to be informed so they make the right decision. So, the best way to get in front of decision makers, number one, is to create the content that they care about that solves a problem that they want to solve. And hopefully, it's the kind of client you want to spend time with, because you can attract people, right? But are they the group and the people that you can help, right? And so create that content. And then, if you have a relationship with them via email, maybe they've downloaded a case study or a report or attended a webinar or something like that. When you're engaging with them in those aspects, in sort of the nurturing process, is understanding that you don't need to convert for an appointment or a meeting. It's like rushing the process. And
Yes.
anything you rush never turns out well. Okay. Try, I mean, just cooking. Look at cooking. There's a recipe, and if you follow it, it turns out well. If you put it in different orders, it doesn't turn out well. So sometimes, because we haven't been consistent with our marketing and our publishing and our sharing of our ideas outside of private meetings, that people don't know about us, they don't have awareness, and so by the time we get into a conversation with them, we're rushing it. You see this at trade shows. They're like, we spent all this money, we only have 2 days. We're basically a retailer, but we're only open 2 days a year. So we got to really, it's like Black Friday. It's a mad rush. All the vendors have to discount their deals, give away stuff. It's not how you want to be in the marketplace. So the best way to get in front of the decision makers is give them content that they care about, that they can easily consume on their time, on demand. And when they consume it, if they want to go to the next level, there's an easy way for them to reach out to you and ask you for help. And so that type of inbound lead is very different than a demo call, because you're coming from the position of sales, and they're kind of like, what are you going to, I'm waiting for and so it's very different.
Yeah.
So whatever you're doing inside these sales meetings, you're transferring knowledge. Do that like we're doing here, where someone else can discover it, and that VP should be working, reaching out to you. So consolidate technology and vendors for property management while increasing NOI with revenue share. That's what you do. Okay, I consolidate technology and for vendors. Okay, so it's vague what you said there. That's kind of what you do. How do
Well,
you? So I consolidate technology. What does that mean? So what you're doing is you're making the customer come up with what that it means. You know what I mean? Secondly, and property management, increasing NOI. Number one, when you say increasing NOI, it's overused. What's the benefit of increasing NOI, right? With our revenue share. So you're giving them some bigger growth opportunities. So to me, if you're increasing their revenue share, that means there's another way for them to get to a yield without depending on a rent increase. That's your story. Listen, you guys can't continually raise rents here. I have a revenue share program that can help you. Boom, boom, boom. I don't know what that is. Maybe we can have a call and talk about that. But the reality is, it just goes over our head. Okay.
exactly.
We
And
don't know. It just goes over our head, Ryan.
and especially the more complex the product, the longer it's going to take to learn. Because I've stood in plenty of trade show booths, and people come by, and we've been around for years and everything, and they've been in their job for years as well, but they still come by. So what do you guys do? It's just going to take that ongoing education and little tidbits of knowledge that you're able to plant and grow those seeds of knowledge over time. Those are going to be what benefits your business, to make, when you finally do get that meeting, to have that conversation, they are educated and they're essentially further along in the sales process, versus that cold call that you make, and then they pick up and, okay, so what are you about? And then you got to explain it 5 different ways in order to get to some basic understanding. It's one thing to have we're not selling t-shirts, because I mean, I wear shirts. But if you got a complex piece of technology or other facets, or you start talking revenue share with a guy or a group of like dentists, for example, that these 5 dentists got together and bought 800 units, for example, that they're not really engaging in those types of conversations when the jargon just goes way over their head. So it takes a little bit more time to educate. And then when you do have those conversations that they are engaged, then the conversion rate to go to a secondary meeting and then get a proposal out, those conversion rates just go way up, instead of just starting cold and then dragging them through the process versus walking side by side through it. And I think that's really ultimately the difference.
Right, right. All right. So good stuff there, Ryan. What else we got here?
There was Brian Landcast talking about roofing to connect with decision makers and opportunity to participate in the RFP process. And I think the RFP process specifically is one of those things that as a salesperson, for example, if you've ever gone into it, it's okay, here's our proposal. Hopefully, keep your fingers crossed they make a decision. I'm like, if you're a salesperson that counts on that discovery call, then the demo, then moving through a sales process, and you don't get that opportunity, how else are they going to know who you are, or get educated around your brand or your offerings, whether it's roofing or any other service? That you better be doing your best to be able to educate around your product and service outside of what you can do in a sales process.
Yeah, right. So right now, think about, and the RFP process is something that I'm not an expertise in, because number one, I don't do them.
Right.
Kind of client I want to serve in terms of the like, it's just not where we are. I think that companies that serve into multifamily have to go through that, because they're doing big projects, and big companies have these systems and steps in place. So it makes sense, I'm sure. And Brian, we should probably talk to you and learn
Yeah.
about what that looks like to you, what the process workflow is, and then maybe discover some opportunities on where you could submit the RFP, but also, like, by the way, this RFP comes with a link to a podcast or something, something else that gives a competitive advantage that stands out where others don't. But what I would also do is think about what happens before the RFP. So when we have clients or people in even our innovation council that say they're excited about certain things, but they're not buying them now. They're over. You have to understand, like, when somebody um, wants roofing, that there's 3,000 other things that they're doing in their business, and this is just one of them, right? So this RFP process just helps them organize and stay on track to manage that process. And I think we can create some value down the road on getting some more clarity and support on what this means. But right now, think about anybody that's purchasing roofing right now. What's on their mind, right? Escalated costs, labor shortages, like credibility, all those things. So I would talk about the things and make sure that when someone's looking at that RFP and there's the deciding point, if they go to Google and they go somewhere else to learn about and more due diligence on the brand, what are they going to discover? If
Right.
there's tutorials, if there's before and afters, if there's someone on the roof saying an aerial, a drone shot, like educating, like, roofing materials, here's how we do it, here's how we do it differently, here's how we make sure that our teams are always working. These are the markets that we're in. This is how we make multifamily investors more money. This is how we make save multifamily investors more money. This is how we reduce risk. This is how we don't allow residents to be interrupted by the process. I mean, you got to be thinking about the executive that's choosing, or the regional or the manager, whoever that's going and reading that RFP. What other due diligence will they need beyond what's in that Excel spreadsheet? And that's where you could compete and stand out. As far as best practices, I think we should learn from you and maybe some others that are going through the process to discover that stuff.
That's
So
a good topic
thank you,
for sure.
Brian, for your question, and send us a note if we can jump on a call. I'd love to learn more. It's hard. I always say, like, what is it? What's the quote in medical? If you give a prescription without a full diagnosis, it's malpractice, right? So what I'm saying here is, you do your own due diligence, but I'm just giving you based off what we've got here. So appreciate the question. All right, what else we got?
Get their numbers.
Oh, Mikkel, do you want to read that, Ryan, or do I want to? Let's see. This is a big problem in the industry. Yep, upper management puts a lot of pressure on to get their numbers. When you get the pressure of sales, it feels good to salesperson and client. So the thing with I will go back to patience. So if you think about like from a person's perspective, pipeline, right? Like what's in the pipeline, and is that pipeline moving forward, or are we advancing the sale? And in many ways, Mikkel, a lot of what we're doing, we're taking the sales process out of the sales. Oh, what does a salesperson do, right? They transfer the knowledge
Mhm.
and they build trust and credibility over time. And that may start with a coffee meeting. It may start with a meeting at a conference. It may start with a follow up. Oh, come in and meet with my regional. That may be the meeting that goes well. It's like, hey, come talk to our team. Now you're with the board of directors or the executive team, and then from there, it's like, okay, we're going to sit on it. Give me this. You're doing all. It could take 8 to 10. It could take 20 touch points. And a lot of times, the salespeople that are doing this don't get a lot of the credit for the work that they're doing in the dark, right? They're out there hunting, they're gathering all this stuff, and the pipeline sits there, and then you have the sales manager saying, "What's closing today, and what's happening." The pressure of that comes from not winning in the marketing part. So if 8 months before that there was thought leadership, there was conversations, there was these types of things happening where the pipeline was developing, you just have more people in the pipeline, so it alleviates some of that pressure. um, but we've depended on salespeople to go to market um, too much, right? And we say things which is true. These things do work, but there are things that work also better or more efficiently. And instead of having one salesperson that knows everything, you want to do things that the company does certain thought leadership, certain education-based marketing mechanisms, and podcasting and speaking at events and creating value for those executives that can learn on their own time. So by the time that they get into the pipeline, they're on a call with you, Mikkel. You're not trying to convince them. They've
Yes.
already bought into the company. They already believe in the company. They already know what the company is about. They know who the leadership is. They know that they're going to be around. They
Right.
know what problem they solve. They know how they solve it. They know what it's going to be like after they become a customer. And so when they're on a call with you, there's less pressure because you're just qualifying them and you're seeing if there's a fit. You're doing in sales at that point, if you get the marketing right, is you're just saying, do I thoroughly understand what this prospective client wants to accomplish, either the problem that they want to solve or the bigger picture they want to create? And do we have a fit here, right? Do we thoroughly understand the situation? And then you're just seeing, like, is this something you can help them with? And if the answer is yes to that, then you have a conversion. That's how it should work, right? Like it doesn't work like that
Well,
because we're trained to react. And Ryan, you got a thought there, so I don't want to.
yeah, you can even talk about what that leads to from a retention standpoint down the road as a partner, because you're not second guessing. You're not say it's a piece of technology where you're only using a certain aspect of like a piece of software, but not utilizing all the modules. So then you don't see the value for the cost and all of those different types of things. So I just think down the road, knowing who you're going into business with as a partner, that even those retention rates are going to accelerate and be a lot higher down the road as the partnership progresses. So
Yeah.
it helps everything. And if you continue to do that right, your current customers are then going to even become aware of new offerings that you might have that they may have not heard from an account manager or another salesperson, re-engaging with a current client. That if you're constantly providing that information, that it's just going to produce a healthier relationship overall.
Hmm. Yeah, very true. All right. Thank you, Mikkel, for your question. Say hi
Great.
to everybody.
And then Samantha's got what's your take on security deposit insurance market? Are you for it or against it?
All right, highlight that question. I can't see it on my or
That is right after Mikkel came through.
and this was Samantha.
Samantha,
What was the
Arch,
question?
what is your take on security deposit insurance market? Are you for it or against it? There
What
you
is
go.
my gosh, I don't. What is my take on security deposit?
Yeah, feels very. You got to be very dug in on
So
your.
the question is not what I think; it's what does the customer think, and I think there's something in this question that's very important, and I want every real estate investor, operator, and of course industry partner. Industry partners don't get enough credit. They're creating things, taking risks to solve the customer experience. But when you build a company today, you would never get funded and you would never get the business off the ground unless you thought thoroughly about how to improve the life of the customer. Right? I mean, that's kind of the program, right? Whereas in multifamily, our customer has been like the lender because they're giving us 70% of the money to buy the property. That's why we have lease terms at 12 months because the lenders perceive that as being less risk.
Correct.
But if you ask a customer, 12 months is like, well, I'm not going to make that decision. I'll just go to Airbnb and move around a little bit. So we got to think like the customer. So two of the wealthiest people in the world, Jeff Bezos, who has made statements publicly about this, that says, I know in the future that customers will want lower costs of things and they're going to want to have an easier way to get them. Amazon, right? Like that's their future. Everything that they do guides like efficiency and how do you keep the cost down, increase the purchasing power of the customer, right? And Elon Musk, who disrupted the automotive industry and is reshaping minds and mindsets around what's possible in many markets, regardless of if you like Tesla or if it's financially performing or not, the mindset around somebody that has achieved a lot of wealth, he was asked the question around supply chain. And, are you going to be able to, are the costs of the Tesla going to go up? And the answer to that was, well, it's not that we want to lower the price of the vehicle. It's that we want to increase the value of the vehicle, right? So in the future, you have a Tesla, you drive it to work instead of your car sitting out in the parking lot for 8 hours. It's doing Uber rides for you, making you $3,500 that month. So you've just increased the value of that lease to where it's now a revenue opportunity for you in that scenario. So those two mindsets, if nothing else, are important to see and listen to in terms of how we approach things. You're going to be 0.5% in how you think compared to everyone else in the industry. I just will warn you with that. But when you think about this question, is it good for the business and is it good for us? Is the default is protect the investor, protect the asset, which is obviously fiduciary. That's important. But sometimes if you get the customer right, you end up doing that better and more efficiently. And so there's a little bit of lagging leadership around truly understanding what that renter customer wants and needs and truly designing a business that can facilitate something useful. Um, there are things that have been far too long, like reporting rent credit to um, to the credit bureaus, right? We have all these residents that are lovely, paying their rent on time, and their financial future is limited because of we haven't reported it. And we've so there's a lot of financial engineering or engineering financial innovation happening in the industry right now that's going to reshape, I think, how people think about their experience with multifamily operators. But I think it's the customer. What are you hearing from customers? Do the customers like it? I mean, reducing friction, right? Like, is it easier to get into the unit, right? And then ultimately, is it certainty and assurance around protecting the owner on the way out too? So I think the real question is, Samantha, on who the customers are and what are they saying. And if I'm marketing that, that's what I'm leading with.
Yep. Yep.
I'm leading with, people that are renting apartments today are really enjoying this. You're going to lease faster, that type of thing. And I don't know enough about it to talk about it. I'd love to jump on a call with you though and talk about it.
Sure.
All right. What else we got here?
Bobby Joe's comment around rushing into meetings when they're busy, and that's a giant turnoff to her. And that's really it too. Is people spend a lot of time about focusing on their product versus what might be happening behind the scenes at their business to be able to fall in line. Much like the deposit insurance conversation, it's like, is risk mitigation top of mind, or are they worrying about some other project that they had going on? And forcing a meeting isn't going to probably benefit you, but providing some education, understanding what stage they're at, and whether it's budget season and what that means to them, and or if they've got 5 other initiatives on their plate, then it's not something that's really top of mind for them. But continuing the education and supporting those businesses will ultimately pay off, because that's just the nature of what selling is helping. So that great comment, Bobby Joe.
Yeah, Bobby Joe. Carrie would say hello and give you a big hug. We miss you, and we know that Bobby Joe has been part of our brand for a long, long time, and we always love the leadership that you're doing out there. So keep doing it. And in terms of your comment, I agree. I mean, I think it's difficult because the industry partners, the vendors are they're employed and they have a single flow of income, and they're told to do this and do this and do this and hit the CRM and hit the touch points and get the activities up and do all that stuff, which is important, right? A business is a business when new revenue is coming in. It's like oxygen to a business. And to the extent that business is successful with driving new sales, it can reinvest those sales into better products and better engineers and better support and all those things. So, sales is great. You want to see that it's healthy for a marketplace. And it's also hard to choose today. And so like Bobby Joe and many other people out there that are trying to make a decision, there are more choices and more places, and you can't always you may only be able to talk to somebody that doesn't fully understand the product or understand the perspective of the way, their deal is structured. It's a 36-month play, or it's not fully like the salespeople need to fully understand the investment objectives of the party that you're trying to sell into. Are they
Yes.
third party operator? Are they owner managed? How do they see brand? How do they see support? Do they have the internal team to take this on? Can they give us the feedback loop that we need? Uh, you know, uh, uh, or is it senior housing, affordable housing, all of these things? And that's why a lot of the content that we produce on broadcasts and all around the world free is a great resource for salespeople to understand, to get into the hearts and minds of the people that you're trying to sell into. So if you know what Bobby Joe goes through on a daily basis, I mean, she's got investors, right? She's got employees that are showing up, not showing up. Who knows? You got residents that are doing this, doing that. You got capital events. You got interest rates going up. You got vendors not showing up. You got all these things that are going on, and they're like mayors and leaders of cities, and probably understaffed in the way that the technology is played out today. I think that'll be redefined in how the future, what needs to be known and when and stuff like that. But the way that the thing is set up, it requires a lot of high task, high relationship. You got to be engaged with residents, engaged with investors, telling the financial story, engaged with the customer story, city compliance, public view, all this stuff. There's a lot of pressure around that role. And then as you get higher in the organization, they understand that as well. And so it just accelerates. So knowing that helps you say the right things to get their attention, cut through the noise, and just remember, make it about them, make it about what they want, how they get it, how it helps them, and help them make a decision. So if I'm selling to Bobby Joe, I'm not saying, "Hey, can I get a meeting?" That's a decision. Yes
Yeah.
or no. Help them solve the problem they want to solve. Okay. I know you have this lease up. You just took it over. I know it's got to be a lot of work. I know you're trying to probably staff this thing, but here I have this thing, and that's you've got to kind of frame things in the mind of the customer. So you may be sitting there thinking, well, emails don't work, text messaging doesn't work, or digital marketing doesn't work. But it's not that it doesn't work. It's just that you're not approaching it the right way, because we're just saying, here's what I have, buy it.
Right.
Can I
Right.
get a meeting? Here's what I have, take it. It's not conducive of effective sales. All right, thank you, Bobby Joe, for that.
I think we've got through some of the questions. Erica T had a nice remark for Samantha about interviewing
Call
5
that out.
property management companies. Yeah.
Oh, Erica. Okay, thanks for the note here, Erica. So Samantha, I would actually interview 5 property management companies and ask them questions, so you can actually collect their info, including pain points, to be able to specifically market to your target audience. Um, Very good comment there. I love it when so what we're doing here is just me and Ryan riffing on certain things around things that we're learning and knowing about the conversations we're having. But also there's what's called a third mind, like when two bright minds come together and they exchange. There's this third mind called the mastermind that come from those ideas crystallizing and sharing together. So Erica, thank you for that, because you did that. You're now talking in the comments with other people, and that's called community. So most of the things that we're doing are not just, hey, these are my perspectives and my thoughts and ideas. Like, we have put a lot into action, so we know, like, that's the art. We know how people react to it, and so we make iterations and we make things better, constantly making things better, and we'll share those things with you. But more importantly, we're spending time with leaders all across the country in all different asset classes, all over the market, listening and hearing what they're talking about and the struggles they're having. But we're also 25% of it is like what's happening next in the future. We're paying attention to things that are disruptive in hospitality and hotel and automotive and medical. There are some exciting things coming to multifamily. And so, curating that into a community so that the content that we bring forward is community driven, instead of just like, hey, we have this thing, have a listen. It's literally extracting the knowledge from the marketplace and then sharing it on our platform to make an impact. All right. So Ryan, what I miss? I made some notes when you were talking. I think I kind of got to the comments and went away from it. Patience. I wrote down patience.
Oh,
Uh,
yeah.
and I also wrote down selling. We sell in private. So if you've ever walked into a steak dinner, a coffee meeting, or a meeting with the 3 executives that you're sharing your ideas with in a sales conversation, if you've ever walked into those meetings and you thought you did great, and wow, that was amazing, the exchange, and we really transfer the knowledge. They came in thinking this, but by the end of it, they were completely excited. Then you need to be doing those things in the public, so
Right.
then you can do it at scale. And now here's why. Number one, if a company does this, then every salesperson benefits from it. So it's one thing to have one salesperson go and improve their job and their performance and all the metrics. But what if you could raise up every salesperson in the organization because you've done certain things right with the brand or the storytelling or the education, right? So if I'm an operator, multifamily third-party management company, or if I'm an investment company, I'm talking about what I do when I take over a property. What's my approach? I'm documenting this so that investors know beyond they're looking at two PPMs and like, well, why this one? Why that one? Well, this one's managed by this company, and I can clearly know, I know the process after I give them money, what will happen with the operation of the portfolio, who's going to do it, how they see it, what the values are, how they organize vendors, how they execute, how they recruit talent, all of those things. And so when you can do those things outside of private meetings, because right now it's happening in meetings. You're going into a meeting, investor, and they're impressed. You're transferring that knowledge inside 45 minutes. You know, what if you walked into that meeting and you didn't even have to do that? And I can tell you that's happened to me. It
Yep.
happened to me about 60 days ago. I had a
I've
70.
witnessed it. I witnessed it myself.
So
That's why.
and that's a significant deal. And so selling in private, and that tees into patience. You know, you
Yep.
may think like, you're just like fishing. You put the line in the water, like, is anything happening, right? You just have to keep going and be consistent. And that's also, I think, where the opportunity is, because most people, they will do something, they won't see a result, and they'll retreat. That means the market is open for you. And even if you did something just on LinkedIn and you just posted, here's who I help, here's who I want to, here's the problem we're solving. If you're struggling with that problem and you think I can help you with that, send me a note. You know,
And the consistency behind it is
yeah,
definitely there. But like you had said, the one-on-one sales meetings, it's always, if you had 10 a week, 5 a week, whatever your business is capable of doing, it's like, did I say it exactly the same as I did on the deals that I won, as I did on the new meeting that I'm having? You know, what was the difference? Is the customer in the same space, and understanding all of those things? But you know, having that consistent message and being able to do it at scales ultimately um, keeps you from retreating, because at some point somebody's going to have engaged with that content because you've consistently put it out there. You said exactly what you needed to say. That point of retreat gets a lot further away because they're already up to speed on what your offerings are. And then when they're ready to engage, they come with their hand raised. And, you know, it just makes those conversations so much warmer than coming in cold and trying to, you know, so you don't know what the internet is yet. So how do I explain that, versus somebody that's already up to speed and where you are on your journey as well.
right. That's great. Carolyn, hello. Good to see you here. Appreciate you watching. Let's see. What's Cheryl's got a question? Or no, right? The meetings can get out of control, and we realistically know, and there's a product service. Are you able to bring those up, Ryan, too, or no?
I'm not able to share the comments
Oh, you're
there.
not. Okay. Well, that's that's all. I'm trying to read them over here. So we get comments from Facebook, YouTube, all the different platforms in one place. So, um, uh, but very good to see you here. So Cheryl says the meetings can get out of control, and we realistically know if there's a product or service content. Why are we inviting 2 to 3, 4 max a day? Yeah, like,
That's an incredible amount of learning you'd have to do in a single day. All right, so what are we talking about? We're talking about technology. We're talking about some operational maintenance service. We're talking, and then they're trying to digest it and keep up to speed and continue their education around a topic, not just based on what they're learning inside of those meetings, but on their own and what they know about their business and the other stakeholders involved. That just sounds like a tremendous amount of pressure for anybody to try to operate their business on a day-to-day basis. So you have to be that patience, like you said, like educating little tidbits here and there, consistency in your message, and really not get to the point to where it's like, okay, now you're blocked, you're reported as spam, those types of things. You know, an inexperienced person can easily fall into that trap if they're just forcing messaging down somebody's throat. So
right.
really understanding their business speaking through your customer instead of to your customer, I think is how you're going to find alignment.
Mm-hmm. And let's go to this question from Cheryl.
Cool.
What's everyone's viewpoint, reality on how many meetings are good per day? That's a great question. Um, so,
Depends on what seat you're sitting in, I guess.
yeah, right. So I'll tell you what I think. Um, there's a couple of ways you can look at this. Um, and it depends on what you have to do in those meetings, right? Is there a demo? Is it a discovery meeting? Is it a follow-up meeting? Is it a cold out? All those things. If you're doing what we're talking about out in advance, and then they come onto the meeting through a system where they've discovered you from an event or a webinar, or they're in a nurture campaign, or they're on they're on something like this and they reach out. And some of that work, you've already been in the meeting. So what's a meeting? This is a meeting.
This is a meeting.
I'm doing it at scale, right?
Correct.
So, and I'm also allowing people to know, like, I can help people grow and scale their management companies, right? Through the team that we put together and the software that we have organized and the strategy and the PR and the events and the thought leadership. But I'm doing it in a way that's helping people instead of saying, go buy the stuff, right? So I think the meeting happens before you're on the Zoom, before you're in the call. The meeting, every email, every text, every interaction is the meeting. It's part of the meeting. And so how many can you have in a day? I think as many as you can. It just depends on how you set up your world. So if you think, just kind of step out of what you've done and what you've been told to do, because there's probably very few salespeople out there that are like hiring their own personal virtual assistant or assistant to help them, because they have one flow of income and they just have it, right. But if you looked at it like a professional athlete looks at performance, they have a nutritionist, they have everything around them for them as an enterprise to succeed, right? So to you, if you were best person in these meetings because you really understand the customer and you move them through these opportunities, and you're great at converting and making and bringing in the business, then I would say as many as you can. So you look into your unique ability. And if your unique ability isn't scheduling and finding the person for the meeting, but you're great at the meeting, then find somebody to get the meeting to you. And then you just do meetings all day, right? And it could be coffee meetings, it could be Zoom meetings, it could be phone call, it could be all those things. But I would expand the perspective of the meeting as it happening before you're actually on the Zoom together. So I think it's as many as you can. And then knowing your goals, right? Like if do the math. So if you know what you have to achieve, and you know like what typically converts inside these meetings and what rhythms have to be in place, then if you do the math, you'll know that just go to the numbers. You'll never be able to get there if you don't, if you'll never be able to get to your goals if you don't have the right conversations, right? And now this plays out in apartments too. Every apartment community that you serve or sell into has turnover. They are constantly selling. It's never like we're done, tie it up, we're sold. It's just there's just like a car dealership. There's always something happening. So, and same thing with meetings. It's like how many can you have? Double that you can have. If you can have one person can have how many? If there were 15-minute meetings, how many could they potentially have? Right? Um, Double it, triple it. It's like not even humanly possible, right? But now you build a team and you have someone that has a meeting before you that sets it up and all those types of things. So I think it's like as many as you can based on your unique ability, but I would expand the vision of what the meeting is, every touch point being part of that meeting.
It's all
All
meeting.
right. Uh, let's see.
Depends on goal.
What is
Caroline, million meetings for sure.
All right. Yeah. So she says, we're doing it. Richard D. That's a good rate. Yep. Very cool. All right. Well, this has been fun. Hopefully, you got some value out of this. Would love to have you follow along. You can follow Multifamily Leadership. You might be seeing this on that page, but you can follow Multifamily Leadership. We produce a lot of podcasts, events. We have a few events coming up. We've got the Multifamily Women Summit coming up. You don't want to miss out on that one. That is registration is closing down soon, so get registered there. That's at multifamilywomen.com. We have, and I know Ryan's excited about this one in December, the Multifamily Innovation Summit. That's a collision of technology, innovation, and leadership coming together. We'll also be recognizing the best places to work multifamily live at that event in person in December. So that program is underway. There's a little bit time left to register for that. If you think your company is building a healthy organization and people are excited and you want to attract more capital, more investors, and more talent to your organization, you'll definitely want to get involved in that. You can go to multifamilyinnovation.com, click on awards. You can get enrolled right there. Click the red button, and but it's I think the deadline is coming up like in the next week or two. So you want to get registered as soon as you can for that. And then Investment Summit is 2023 after the Super Bowl. But other than that, follow us along, and we'll see you guys in the next show. All right.
Thanks,
Yeah.
everybody.
Thanks,
Thanks for
Ryan.
the comments.